Commander Taiwan Park stood at attention in the stark white hallway of the Interspecies Diplomatic Center, his broad shoulders squared beneath his crisp black uniform. The 15 years of military service had left their mark on him, not just in the rigid posture or the watchful eyes that constantly scanned his surroundings, but in the network of cybernetic enhancements that hummed beneath his skin. His right arm was mostly synthetic now, a replacement after a plasma blast on Titan. His eyes had been upgraded with tactical displays, and a neural processor at the base of his skull helped regulate the whole system. "Commander Park," a voice called from behind him. "Thank you for your promptness." Taiwan turned to face Director Kim, the head of Earth's Diplomatic Security Division. She was a small woman with steel-gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. "The assignment is sensitive," Director Kim said, gesturing for him to follow her into a secure briefing room. "You've worked protection detail before, but never for a Lumiri." Taiwan's expression remained neutral, though his interest was piqued. The Lumiri were among the newest alien species to establish relations with Earth. Their iridescent skin and enhanced sensory abilities made them natural diplomats, able to detect the smallest changes in emotion or intention. "Ambassador Nara arrives tomorrow with her daughter, Yuma," Director Kim continued, sliding a data tablet across the table. "Your primary assignment is the daughter's protection." Taiwan raised an eyebrow as he reviewed the file. "The daughter, not the ambassador. Ambassador Nara has her own security team. Her daughter, however, is considered particularly valuable to the Lumiri. She's what they call a seventh sense, rare even among their kind." The briefing continued with details about potential threats, security protocols, and cultural considerations. Anti-alien sentiment had been growing on Earth, with several extremist groups making threats against the upcoming trade negotiations. The Lumiri, with their valuable medical technology, were a particular target. When the meeting concluded, Taiwan returned to his apartment to prepare. The modest space reflected little of his personality. Functional furniture, minimal decorations, and a small shrine to his parents in one corner. He packed efficiently, his movements precise as he selected clothing, weapons, and the specialized maintenance kit for his cybernetics. That night, he dreamed of distant stars. The diplomatic shuttle arrived precisely on schedule the next morning. Taiwan stood at the landing pad, watching as the sleek silver craft touched down. A small delegation of Earth officials waited nearby, ready to welcome the ambassador. Ambassador Nara emerged first, tall and elegant with skin that shimmered between blue and green in the morning sunlight. Her security detail followed. 4 Lumiri with the characteristic silver bands around their wrists that marked them as military. And then came Yuna. Taiwan felt it immediately. A strange tingling sensation where his cybernetics connected to his organic tissue. The neural processor at the base of his skull warmed slightly, and the tactical display in his vision flickered. Yuna was smaller than her mother, with skin that shifted toward purple tones. Her eyes, large and entirely black, scanned the landing area until they found Taiwan. She tilted her head slightly, a curious gesture that seemed almost bird-like. "Commander Park," Director Kim said, "may I present Yuna, daughter of Ambassador Nara." Taiwan bowed formally. "It's my honor to ensure your safety during your stay on Earth." Yuna approached him with graceful steps. "Your systems are singing," she said, her voice melodic with an accent that made standard English sound like poetry. "I can feel them." Taiwan's training prevented him from showing surprise, but inwardly he was startled. His cybernetics were state-of-the-art, designed to be undetectable by standard scans. "I'm not sure what you mean," he replied carefully. Ambassador Nara stepped forward. "My daughter has unusual sensitivities, Commander. The seventh sense allows her to perceive energy patterns that others cannot." She smiled diplomatically. "I trust this won't be a problem." "No problem at all, Ambassador," Taiwan assured her, though he made a mental note to run a diagnostic on his systems at the first opportunity. The first day passed without incident. Taiwan escorted Yuna to her designated quarters in the diplomatic complex, secured the perimeter, and established rotation schedules with the building's security team. Yuna was quiet but observant, asking occasional questions about Earth customs or architecture. That night, Taiwan took the first security shift himself, positioned in an anteroom adjacent to Yuna's quarters. He ran the promised diagnostic on his cybernetics, but found nothing unusual. Still, he couldn't shake the strange sensation he'd felt when first meeting the Lumiri girl. 3 hours into his shift, Taiwan jolted upright, his heart racing. He had been perfectly alert, not dozing, yet suddenly felt a surge of fear that wasn't his own. Without thinking, he drew his sidearm and rushed into Yuna's quarters. He found her sitting upright in bed, her skin pulsing with waves of dark purple. She turned to him, eyes wide. "You felt it too," she whispered. "Felt what?" Taiwan asked, scanning the room for threats. "The nightmare," Yuna said simply. "My nightmare. You shouldn't have been able to feel it." Taiwan lowered his weapon slowly. "That's impossible. And yet you are here, weapon drawn, responding to a threat that existed only in my mind." Yuna's skin gradually shifted to a calmer blue tone. "Your cybernetics and my seventh sense, they are communicating somehow." Taiwan frowned. This was far outside his experience or training. "I should report this to my superiors." "Please don't," Yuna said quickly. "Not yet. Let me understand it first." She studied him with those deep black eyes. "This connection could be valuable. Or dangerous. I need time to explore it." Against his better judgment, Taiwan nodded. "1 day. We'll give it 1 day before reporting." As he returned to his post, Taiwan couldn't help but feel that this assignment had just become far more complicated than a simple protection detail. Whatever was happening between his cybernetics and Yuna's seventh sense was unprecedented, and judging by the continuing hum in his neural processor, it was only beginning. Taiwan adjusted his collar as he escorted Yuna through the botanical gardens of the diplomatic quarter. 3 days had passed since their strange neural connection first emerged, and rather than diminishing, it had grown stronger. He could sense her emotions more clearly now, her curiosity about Earth's flora, her slight homesickness, and occasionally her awareness of him. "Your thoughts are very structured," Yuna remarked, pausing to examine a blue orchid. Her skin rippled with matching blue patterns, like geometric shapes. "Is that from your military training or your cybernetics?" Taiwan glanced around, ensuring they weren't overheard. "Probably both. The neural processor organizes information systematically." He hesitated. "Your thoughts feel like music without sound." She smiled at that. "An apt description. Lunary consciousness is harmonically arranged." As they rounded a corner, Taiwan's security earpiece buzzed with an update from the perimeter team. "All clear, Commander. Ambassador Nera's meeting is proceeding as scheduled." Yuna tilted her head. The security officer is nervous. He saw something but isn't sure if it matters. Taiwan stopped walking. "How could you possibly know that?" "I heard it through you," she said simply. "Your cybernetics received his transmission, and our connection shared it with me." A chill ran down Taiwan's spine. This was a serious security breach, even if unintentional. "What exactly did you perceive?" His tone, his elevated heart rate coming through the biometric feed, and an image, a person in gray moving behind a hedge, then gone. Taiwan immediately activated his comm. "Team 2, check the northeast quadrant. Possible surveillance." He turned to Yuna. "We need to move to a more secure location." "There's no immediate danger," she said, but followed his lead as he guided her toward the central pavilion. "You can't know that for certain." Yuna's skin darkened slightly. "Actually, I can. The seventh sense perceives intention. If there were immediate hostile intent directed at us, I would feel it." Before Taiwan could respond, a sharp pain lanced through his head. His vision swam with fragmented images, 3 figures in dark clothing, weapons, approaching from multiple angles. He staggered, catching himself against a stone planter. You see, Yuna gripped his arm. Now they're coming. Taiwan's training took over. He drew his sidearm and activated his tactical display, scanning for threats. Stay close. We need to reach the panic room in the east wing. They moved quickly through the garden, taking a winding path between tall hedges. Taiwan's cybernetics were feeding him conflicting information. His visual scan showed nothing, but through his connection with Yuna, he sensed the approaching attackers. Left, she whispered urgently. One is coming from the left. Taiwan pivoted instantly, raising his weapon just as a figure in dark combat gear emerged from behind a flowering tree. He fired a stun round, dropping the attacker before they could raise their weapon. Behind us, Yuna warned. Taiwan spun again, pushing Yuna behind a stone sculpture as energy bolts sizzled through the air where they had stood. He returned fire, forcing the second attacker into cover. The third one is circling around, Yuna said, her voice remarkably calm despite her skin pulsing with alarmed purples and reds. Taiwan tapped his emergency beacon, alerting all security teams. We need to move. Now. As they sprinted toward the diplomatic building, Taiwan felt something extraordinary happening. His cybernetics were integrating Yuna's sensory input, creating a 360-degree awareness field. He could somehow feel the positions of all three attackers, even the one he couldn't see. Jump right, Yuna suddenly shouted. Without hesitation, Taiwan leaped sideways, pulling her with him as an explosive charge detonated where they would have been. They tumbled behind a decorative wall, debris raining around them. How did you? He began. I felt the trigger activation through your systems, she explained quickly. Your cybernetics detected the electronic signal. Security alarms blared across the complex. Taiwan knew reinforcements would arrive soon, but they needed to reach safety first. There's a maintenance tunnel 30 meters ahead, he said. We can use it to reach the secure wing. As they prepared to move, Yuna suddenly clutched his arm. Wait, something's wrong. Taiwan's display showed nothing unusual, but he had learned to trust her perceptions. What is it? The third attacker. Their intentions have changed. They're not trying to capture us anymore. Her skin paled to an ashen gray. They're going to trigger a larger explosion. They want to damage the diplomatic relations, not just capture me. Taiwan made a split-second decision. New plan. We need to warn the others. He activated his comm. All units, possible explosive device on the premises. Evacuate the ambassador and all personnel immediately. They changed direction, moving toward the service entrance where they might intercept the third attacker. Taiwan's combat-enhanced reflexes combined with Yuna's sensory awareness made them formidable. When the third attacker appeared, Taiwan was already firing, his aim guided by Yuna's perception of where the attacker would move. The assailant fell, but not before triggering a device on their wrist. A countdown appeared in Taiwan's vision. 15 seconds. Run, he shouted, grabbing Yuna's hand. They sprinted away from the diplomatic complex, Taiwan's augmented legs pushing to their limit. They had just cleared the garden perimeter when the explosion rocked the ground behind them, sending them sprawling onto the grass. Taiwan instinctively covered Yuna with his body as debris rained down. When he looked up, he saw that the blast had destroyed part of the garden, but had been too far from the main building to cause serious damage. Security teams swarmed the area. As Taiwan helped Yuna to her feet, he saw Ambassador Nera rushing toward them, her security detail struggling to keep pace. Yuna, the ambassador called, her normally composed facade cracking with worry. Yuna embraced her mother. I'm unharmed, thanks to Commander Park. Ambassador Nera regarded Taiwan with newfound respect. You have my gratitude, Commander. Director Kim arrived moments later, her face grim. The attackers were part of Terra Prime, an anti-alien extremist group. We'd received intelligence that this was just a first attempt. Taiwan nodded, keeping his expression professional despite his racing thoughts. We need to increase security protocols immediately. As medical teams checked them for injuries, Yuna caught Taiwan's eye. Through their connection, he felt her message clearly. They couldn't tell anyone about their neural link. Not yet. It was too valuable, too unexpected a defense. That night, in a new secure location, Ambassador Nara studied her daughter and Taiwan with suspicion. You moved with unusual coordination during the attack. How did you anticipate their movements so precisely? Taiwan maintained his composure. Good training, Ambassador. Nothing more. But as he stood guard later that night, Taiwan knew their secret wouldn't remain hidden for long. Whatever was happening between his cybernetics and Yuna's seventh sense was unprecedented, and if the wrong people learned about it, they would become targets for reasons beyond simple anti-alien sentiment. What had begun as a routine protection assignment had become something far more complex. Their bodies had created a connection that neither government had authorized, and that both might fear. Taiwan sat cross-legged on the floor of the safe house, his eyes closed as he focused on his breathing. After the attack 3 days ago, security protocols had been completely overhauled. Ambassador Nara and her delegation had been moved to this remote facility in the mountains, accessible only by air and protected by the latest defense systems. Yuna watched him from across the room, fascinated by the disciplined pattern of his thoughts. Through their strengthening connection, she could sense him sorting through the tactical information from the previous day, organizing it into neat compartments in his mind. Your meditation is different from ours, she remarked, her skin shifting to a thoughtful blue-green. Lumiri meditation involves harmonizing with others, but yours is solitary. Taiwan opened his eyes. Humans value individual strength. It's built into our training. Yet your cybernetics seek connection. They're reaching for my mind even now. He couldn't deny it. The link between them had grown stronger after the attack. Sometimes he could sense her presence even when they were in different rooms. Is it uncomfortable for you? She asked, approaching to sit near him. Not uncomfortable, just unfamiliar. Taiwan hesitated. I was trained to maintain separation between myself and those I protect. This connection makes that impossible. Outside, rain began to fall, pattering against the reinforced windows. The safe house was built like a luxury cabin, all natural wood and stone, but with hidden security features throughout. I've been meaning to ask, Taiwan said, what exactly is the seventh sense? Your mother mentioned it when we first met. Yuna's skin rippled with patterns of light. Lumiri have 6 standard senses, the 5 like humans, plus energy perception. The seventh sense is rare, appearing in perhaps 1 in 10,000 Lumiri. It allows us to perceive intentions and potential futures. You can see the future. Taiwan raised an eyebrow. Not exactly. I perceive possibilities and the intentions that create them. She smiled at his skepticism. Much like your tactical systems calculate probabilities. Taiwan considered this. Is that why you're so valuable to your people? Why they sense special protection? Partly. She turned her gaze to the rain-streaked window. Mostly it's because I'm also a bridge mind. A what? Someone who can form neural connections with other species. Her expression grew serious. No Lumiri has ever connected with a human before, especially not one with cybernetic enhancements. What's happening between us is unprecedented. Taiwan processed this information. Is that why you didn't want me to report our connection? Because it's so rare. Because it's politically sensitive, she corrected. Some Lumiri believe we should keep our abilities separate from other species. They fear contamination. And humans have similar concerns about alien influence on our technology. Taiwan nodded slowly. So we're both potential traitors to our kinds. Or pioneers, Yuna countered, her skin brightening. My father was human. Did you know that? Taiwan's surprise must have shown on his face because she laughed, a melodic sound that sent ripples of amusement through their connection. My mother met him during the first contact between our worlds. He was a xenobiologist. Their relationship was controversial, but they loved each other deeply. Her skin dimmed slightly. "He died when I was young. An accident in his laboratory." "I'm sorry," Tai-1 said, genuinely moved by the sadness that flowed through their link. "It's why I understand both worlds, without fully belonging to either." She looked at him intently. "Your cybernetics make you something not quite fully human in the eyes of some, don't they?" Tai-1 hadn't expected such perception. After his injuries and enhancements, many of his former colleagues had treated him differently, with respect for his capabilities, but also with subtle distance. "They're a necessary part of me now," he said simply. "Show me," Yuna requested, reaching toward his cybernetic arm. After a moment's hesitation, Tai-1 removed his uniform jacket and rolled up his sleeve, revealing the seamless integration of synthetic material with his skin. The cybernetic components extended from his fingertips to his shoulder, gleaming with subtle blue light along the connection points. Yuna placed her hand gently on his forearm. The sensation was electric. His sensors registered her touch, while simultaneously processing the emotional echo of her fascination through their link. "It's beautiful," she said, "so different from our technology, yet serving the same purpose, to enhance life." Tai-1 had never thought of his cybernetics as beautiful, functional, necessary, advanced, but not beautiful. "Lumiri technology is biologically grown," she explained, her fingers tracing the lines of his cybernetic components. "We shape living materials to serve our needs rather than constructing mechanical devices." As she spoke, Tai-1 felt something shifting in their connection. The barriers between their minds thinned, and suddenly he was seeing images from her memory. Vast chambers of luminescent structures that pulsed with life, Lumiri technicians communicating with the living architecture through touch and thought. "You're sharing your memories," he said with wonder. "And you're sharing yours," Yuna replied. Indeed, he could feel his own memories flowing through the connection. The military academy where he trained, the battlefield where he'd been injured, the sterile medical facility where he received his enhancements. "This is dangerous," Tai-1 said, though he made no move to pull away. "Knowledge always is." Yuna's skin shifted to a deep purple. "But necessary. The attack on us wasn't random, Tai-1. Someone targeted us specifically. The Terra Prime extremists were manipulated by someone with knowledge of both our worlds." Her expression grew grave. "Someone who fears what our connection represents." A security alert beeped on Tai-1's comm unit. He checked it quickly. "Ambassador Nera is requesting your presence. The human negotiators have arrived for the preliminary talks." Yuna stood gracefully. "We'll continue this later." As they walked toward the conference room, Tai-1 noticed something odd. His cybernetic systems were processing information more efficiently, integrating data in new patterns. And through their link, he sensed that Yuna's seventh sense was expanding, incorporating elements of his tactical analysis. They were changing each other, becoming something neither fully human nor fully Lumiri. "Commander Park." Ambassador Nera greeted them as they entered. "The Security Council has questions about the attack. They believe there may be a leak within our delegation." Tai-1 straightened. "I'll assist in any way I can." As the meeting began, he caught Yuna's eye across the room. Through their connection, he felt her concern and her determination. Whatever conspiracy was targeting them went beyond simple anti-alien sentiment. Someone feared the potential of their connection, and perhaps they were right to be afraid. Because as Tai-1 scanned the faces of the human and Lumiri officials gathered around the table, he realized that he and Yuna now possessed something unprecedented: the ability to perceive truth and deception through both human and alien understanding. Their bodies weren't just connecting, they were evolving together. 10 days had passed since the attack in the gardens, and the mountain's safe house had become a center of diplomatic activity. Security teams patrolled the perimeter while negotiators from both species worked to finalize the trade agreement that would bring Lumiri medical technology to Earth. Tai-1 stood at the window of the observation deck, watching a transport shuttle descend on the landing pad. His cybernetic arm hummed with increased activity, a side effect of his deepening connection with Yuna. Through this link, he could sense her even now, 3 floors below in the medical lab where she was demonstrating Lumiri healing techniques to human doctors. Quite the view, isn't it? A voice said behind him. Taiwan turned to see Director Song, the newly appointed head of the negotiation team. The man was short with perfectly combed hair and a smile that never reached his eyes. Yes, sir, Taiwan replied simply. I'm told you've been an exemplary guardian for the ambassador's daughter, Song said, joining him at the window. Your quick thinking during the attack saved many lives. Just doing my job, sir. Song studied him closely. I understand your cybernetics are military grade. Fascinating technology. I've always been curious about the interface between organic and synthetic systems. Something in the director's tone made Taiwan uneasy. Through his link with Yuna, he felt a sudden flicker of concern. She had sensed his discomfort. Standard military enhancements, Taiwan said neutrally. Nothing special. Of course. Song's smile tightened. Still, I wonder if you might submit to some testing while we're here. Our science team is developing new interfaces, and your experience would be valuable. Before Taiwan could answer, his comm unit chimed. Excuse me, sir. I need to check in with security. As he left the observation deck, Taiwan sent a silent question through his link to Yuna. Asterisk, did you feel that asterisk? Her answer came clearly. Asterisk, yes. His intentions are clouded. Be careful, asterisk. Later that afternoon, Taiwan escorted Yuna to a scheduled meeting with both delegation leaders. Ambassador Nera was already seated at the conference table, along with the Earth's chief negotiator and several aides. Ah, right on time, Ambassador Nera said, her skin displaying formal patterns of blue and silver. Yuna, please join us. Commander Park, you may wait outside. Taiwan bowed respectfully and turned to leave, but Director Song raised his hand. Actually, I think Commander Park should join us. His security insights might be valuable. Taiwan took a position near the door, maintaining a professional stance while his tactical systems scanned the room out of habit. Something felt wrong, but he couldn't identify the threat. The meeting began with standard diplomatic pleasantries, but soon turned to more sensitive matters. We need to address the elephant in the room, Director Song said. Our scientists have detected unusual energy patterns between Commander Park and Miss Yuna. The room fell silent. Ambassador Nera's skin flickered with surprise and concern. What exactly are you implying, Director? She asked coolly. Song placed a data tablet on the table. We've been monitoring all neural and energetic activities in this facility since the attack. Standard security protocol. He swiped the screen, bringing up a series of wavelength patterns. These readings show an unprecedented synchronization between Commander Park's cybernetic systems and your daughter's seventh sense abilities. Taiwan maintained his composure, but inwardly he was alarmed. Through their connection, he could feel Yuna's similar reaction. Is this true? Ambassador Nera turned to her daughter, her skin now pulsing with dark colors of concern. Yuna sat perfectly still, a Lumiri gesture of contemplation. Yes, Commander Park and I have developed a neural connection. It happened spontaneously when we met. Why wasn't this reported immediately? The Earth negotiator demanded. Because we first needed to understand it ourselves, Taiwan said, stepping forward. The connection has proven beneficial to security operations. It helped us survive the attack. Ambassador Nera's expression hardened. This is completely unprecedented. Unregulated neural connections between species violate Protocol 17 of our diplomatic agreement. Not to mention the security implications, Song added smoothly. Commander Park's cybernetics contain classified military technology. This connection could constitute an unintentional intelligence breach. Taiwan felt Yuna's indignation through their link, mingled with a growing sense of danger. Something about this confrontation felt orchestrated. I suggest we separate them immediately for testing, Song continued. Our scientists have developed a neural suppression field that should temporarily disable the connection while we investigate. No. Una stood suddenly, her skin flashing morning colors. Severing the connection could damage both of us. Our neural pathways have begun to integrate. Ambassador Nera looked stricken. Daughter, are you saying this human's technology has altered your seventh sense? Not altered, enhanced, Una insisted. And my abilities have similarly enhanced his systems. We are more effective together than apart. Director Song's smile had vanished. This is precisely why we need to intervene. Such unregulated integration poses unknown risks. Through their connection, Taiwan sensed something from Una, a revelation forming in her mind. Asterisk it's him. Asterisk her thoughts whispered. Asterisk Song arranged the attack. He fears what our connection represents, asterisk. Taiwan casually shifted his position, placing himself between Song and the door. Perhaps we should consult the medical teams before making any decisions, he suggested. I'm afraid this isn't open for debate, Song replied, touching a control on his wrist device. Security, please escort Commander Park to Laboratory 3 for the procedure. 4 armed guards entered the room. Taiwan assessed them quickly. Standard security personnel, not special forces. He could overcome them if necessary, but that would only confirm Song's allegations about him being a security risk. Director Song, Una said suddenly, her voice carrying unusual authority. You arranged the attack in the gardens, didn't you? The room grew tense. Song's expression didn't change, but Taiwan's sensors detected elevated heart rate and stress markers. That's an outrageous accusation, Song replied coldly. Is it? Una's skin shifted to a revealing pattern Taiwan had never seen before, the Lumiri equivalent of presenting evidence. Your organization has been experimenting with cross-species neural technology for years. Our connection happened naturally, proving your expensive research unnecessary. Ambassador Nera's eyes widened. Director, is this true? Before Song could answer, his comm unit buzzed. He checked it, then stood abruptly. We'll continue this discussion later. Commander Park, you will report to Laboratory 3 immediately. As Song left with the guards, Taiwan exchanged a glance with Una. Through their link, he felt her urgent message. Asterisk, we need to find proof before he destroys it, asterisk. Mother, Una said, turning to Ambassador Nera. I need you to trust me. Our connection isn't a threat. It's a breakthrough. And Director Song wants to eliminate it because it threatens his position and his secret research. Ambassador Nera studied her daughter, then Taiwan. I will give you 24 hours to provide evidence. After that, I must follow protocol. As they left the conference room, Taiwan received an alert from his security team. All personnel were being recalled to stations, and the facility was going into lockdown. He's making his move, Taiwan said quietly. Yuma nodded, her skin pulsing with determination. Then so must we. Through their unprecedented connection, they silently planned their next steps, knowing that by tomorrow, either they would be vindicated, or their unique bond would be severed forever. The mountain facility blazed with emergency lights as Taiwan raced through the eastern corridor. His cybernetic arm pulsed with energy, interfacing with the building's security systems to override locked doors. 6 hours had passed since they'd confronted Director Song, and in that time, the situation had deteriorated rapidly. Security teams to Level 3 blared the announcement system, detained Commander Park, and the Lumiri girl immediately. Taiwan ducked into a maintenance shaft, his enhanced vision allowing him to navigate the darkness. Through his neural link with Una, he sensed her position 2 floors below in the data center. She was accessing Song's classified files while he created a diversion. Asterisk, I found something. Asterisk, her thoughts reached him clearly. Asterisk, curry, asterisk. He descended the emergency ladder, his movements silent despite his speed. As he reached the lower level, his tactical display flashed a warning. 4 guards approaching from the south corridor. He pressed himself against the wall, waiting until they passed before continuing toward the data center. Yuna stood at a terminal, her skin glowing with concentrated blues and purples as her fingers danced over the interface. She didn't look up when he entered. She didn't need to. Their connection told her exactly who had arrived. Director Song has been running an unauthorized program called Synthesis for 3 years, she said, her voice tight with urgency. They'd been attempting to force neural connections between humans with cybernetics and captured Lumiri. Taiwan stood guard at the door, his senses extended through both his tactical systems and their shared awareness. That violates at least 6 interspecies treaties. All their test subjects died. Yuna continued, her skin darkening with distress. They couldn't achieve stable integration. But then we happened naturally, proving their entire approach was wrong. Taiwan scanned the files appearing on the screen. He doesn't want to study our connection. He wants to eliminate the evidence that his research was unnecessary, and eliminate us as living proof. Yuna downloaded the files to a secure crystal, Lumiri storage technology that interfaced with her biological systems. We need to get this to my mother and your government simultaneously. Alarms suddenly blared throughout the facility. Taiwan's tactical display filled with movement indicators, security teams converging on their position from multiple directions. They found us, he said, drawing his sidearm. We need another route. Yuna closed her eyes briefly, her 7th sense expanding through their connection. The medical lab. There's a transport preparing to evacuate the human researchers. If we can reach it, we'll have to fight our way through, Taiwan warned. Yuna's skin rippled with determination. Not necessarily. She placed her hand on the facility's central interface panel. Through their connection, Taiwan felt her consciousness extend into the building systems, not hacking them like human technology would, but communicating with them in the Lumiri way, persuading rather than commanding. The lights throughout the facility flickered, then failed completely. Emergency systems activated, casting everything in dim red light. That won't hold them long, she said. They moved swiftly through the darkened corridors, their shared awareness creating a perfect coordination. When guards appeared ahead, Taiwan disabled them with precise stun shots, while Yuna sensed ambush points before they arrived. As they approached the medical wing, Taiwan suddenly staggered, a searing pain shooting through his cybernetic systems. Through their link, he felt Yuna gasp as well. Neural disruptor, he managed through gritted teeth. Song must have activated it. The pain intensified, threatening to sever their connection. Taiwan's vision blurred as his cybernetics began to malfunction. Beside him, Yuna's skin paled to an alarming white. Fighting it makes it worse, she whispered, reaching for his hand. Don't resist. Let it flow through both of us. Instinct told him to battle the intrusion, to protect his systems as he'd been trained, but trust overrode training. He grasped her hand and opened his mind fully to their connection. The pain transformed. Instead of attacking their separate systems, it now circulated between them, neither fully in his cybernetics nor her 7th sense. Together, they created a new pathway, something that wasn't purely human technology or Lumiri biology, but a true synthesis. The disruptor signal faded, ineffective against what they had become. Fascinating, said Director Song, stepping from the shadows ahead of them. He held a control device and was flanked by 4 guards with weapons raised. You've achieved complete neural integration. The perfect test subjects after all. It's over, Song, Taiwan said, keeping his weapon steady. We have the synthesis files. Both governments will know what you've done. Song's smile was cold. You think anyone will care about ethics violations when they see what you two represent? A human with access to alien abilities. An alien with military cybernetic knowledge. You're walking security breaches. Or we're the future, Yuna countered, her skin now glowing with a clear, steady light. The proof that cooperation achieves what force cannot. A philosophical debate we can continue in the laboratory. Song raised the control device. This next signal will render you both unconscious. The integration patterns will be fascinating to study while we dismantle them. Before he could activate the device, the wall behind him exploded inward. Ambassador Nera strode through the debris, flanked by her Lumiri security team, and surprisingly, Director Kim from Earth's diplomatic corps. Director Song, Kim announced formally, "You are relieved of duty pending investigation for treaty violations and endangering diplomatic personnel." Song's face contorted with rage. "You don't understand what they've become. They're dangerous. The only danger here came from you," Ambassador Nera stated, her skin patterns displaying formal authority. "The evidence has already been transmitted to both governments." As Song and his guards were detained, Taiwan and Yuma exchanged a look of relief. Through their connection, they shared the realization that Ambassador Nera must have been monitoring them all along. "Mother," Yuma said, stepping forward. "How did you know?" Ambassador Nera's stern expression softened slightly. "You think I wouldn't recognize my own daughter's neural patterns? I've been aware of your connection since it formed." "Then why allow it to continue?" Taiwan asked. "Because it was natural, not forced," the ambassador replied. "And because sometimes the most important discoveries happen by accident rather than design." 3 weeks later, Taiwan stood on the observation deck of the orbital diplomatic station, watching Earth rotate below. The blue-green planet looked peaceful from this distance, hiding the political upheaval caused by the synthesis revelations. He sensed Yuma's approach before he heard her. Their connection had stabilized now, controllable but always present, a bridge between worlds. "The final agreement was ratified," she said, joining him at the viewport. Her skin shimmered with pleased patterns of gold and blue. "Our neural link has been officially recognized as a breakthrough rather than a breach." "And the research?" Taiwan asked. "Will continue under joint supervision." She smiled. "With us as willing participants rather than subjects." He turned to face her fully. "They're calling us the first synthesis pair. Others will follow, if they're compatible." Yuna's expression grew thoughtful. "What we have can't be manufactured or forced." Director Song never understood that. Taiwan nodded, feeling the truth of her words through their connection. What had begun as a simple protection assignment had revealed possibilities neither world had imagined. Ambassador Nera has proposed a new diplomatic initiative, Yuna continued. "A joint security team combining human technology and Lumiri perception. They'd want us to lead it." "That would be unprecedented," Taiwan said, though he could feel her excitement mirroring his own. "Our bodies made the decision for us long ago," she reminded him, her skin glowing with warm colors. "We might as well embrace the possibilities they created." As they turned to watch a Lumiri ship dock alongside a human vessel, their shared consciousness extended between them. Not human, not alien, but something wonderfully new. Their unique connection had opened doors between worlds that no diplomatic agreement ever could, proving that sometimes the greatest understandings begin not with treaties, but with trust.